Just trying to keep my head above the water. You make me wanna stop. Oh, stop swimming. Stop swimming.
All right, and thank you. Welcome to another episode of Justified Riches. The power of persistence. What do we say? Execution over perfection. So we're happy to bring you episode 5. It's been a little bit as we've continued to work on programming, and the most important part of this recipe is our mentees. So we are super excited today for another episode of Justified Riches, where we really bring together common topics, financial literacy, life information, but most importantly, allow it as an opportunity to empower our mentee and hear it from their perspective. So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our guest today. Well, actually, myself, Rich Tavares, your co-host here, Justified Riches, over 25 years of banking and financial experience, and also business owner as well. And my pleasure to introduce here, Charles Harewood. So you can ask Charles about his day job, and he's excited about that. But one of the things that is really exciting about Charles is he is a builder of communities. He is a builder of people. Justin has this awesome quote by Frederick Douglass, which he'll go over. So it's so apropos that we have Charles here, because one of the things that this podcast is about is building communities, helping to make an impact that can last a generation. And to have someone from our community who's clearly doing that. I could go over a long list, but he will go over his title so I don't get anything incorrect. But we'd love also for him to go over his passion project as he's leading, helping to build the next future men and future leaders of tomorrow. So please, Charles.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Rick, for that introduction. I have the pleasure, by the way, my name is Charles Harewood. I'm the founder, or rather the co-founder of Gap Cafe. It's a nonprofit organization where our goal is to close the gap between where you are and where God is calling you to be. I also have my beautiful daughter, Abigail Harewood, here as part of my kind of co-host interviewee. And this is her first time speaking. And she has a passion for acting and dancing. Actually, we just came right over here from her doing ballet and different art. So she is, a go-getter when it comes to entertainment and acting. So I'm just here to support her and catapult her. In terms of financing, I'm excited to learn and share right now what is gonna transpire.
Right. So it's a pleasure to have everybody here on the show. I'm Justin. Been teaching for over 15 years in the inner city. Certified teacher, certified financial educator, and similar to you, Charles. You have four kids, correct?
Correct.
Right. So I have 4 kids, so I know the struggle.
I have 4 kids.
Look at that. Four kids. I know the struggle. I know the grind. So my first question for both of y'all can answer. How is it as a father, and I should say as a daughter, right, growing up in a bigger household, nowadays 4 kids is a lot, and balancing work, balancing school, balancing chores. How is that?
So, do you wanna go?
Sure. So I personally think it's good because you have a support system where it comes to your family, where if you need something, you forgot something, or you just need help, your family's there to surround you. But it could also seem a little chaotic because you also have to make sure your family's not just helping you, but you're helping them. That you have to be a team player, basically, in your entire family, and make sure everyone has everything they need so no one's missing out on anything.
So you're the older sibling?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
So she said it clearly. Like my wife actually is key to that. Basically, it's a team that we have.
Shout out to the wives.
It also helps. It also helps that my mother-in-law lives with us as well.
Oh, nice.
So that helps to take off some of the pain. Sometimes when it gets a little challenging, when the wife and I want to escape for an hour or two just for us, so that's helpful. But in terms of maintaining balance, the way my vision is to curate it into 4 buckets: my relationship with God, my relationship with myself and my wife, my relationship with my wife. Sorry, my relationship with my children.
Mommy, check your phone, hurry.
No, it's all good. Sorry, Charles. This is it's a real family enterprise over here. Sorry, Charles. So you please get that. Yeah.
Was that the shout out to the wives?
Yeah, that was Alexa. That was Alexa making sure.
With Alexa at home, I didn't know we connected. When I heard that, I was like,
It overrode. Speaking of the moms and the kids, right? Access. So please, thank you, Charles.
So where should I start? Start from the beginning, or
Well, yeah. No, you were good because you were talking about the relationship.
You said you put it in 4 boxes.
yeah.
Yep.
So 4 buckets: my relationship with God, my relationship with self and my wife, my relationship with my family and friends. That's including the children, and those I serve and work. So by putting it in that 4 categories, it helps me to simplify my life. And when I feel as though I'm spending too much time in one of those buckets, then it's easier to define it. I think one of the challenges with us, like when you have a big family, is that you can get consumed because there's so much coming at you all day, every day. And especially, you have a full-time job, your wife has a full-time job, and if you don't kind of curate your life, you can quickly go in a space where you'll feel overwhelmed. And the way I kind of simplify that is by curating it into those 4 buckets, and then periodically assess where I am in those 4 buckets, and then quickly correct if it's not working.
I like that, and just what taking a step back, and what's really interesting, and what we'll go over, right? So I think the premise of the episode here, if we're talking about financial literacy, Charles is definitely going to be able to share with us the 7 stages, right? And you can see already as we're beginning to talk about that, the compartments. So one of the things that successful people talk about, or even Atomic Habits, it's the power of systems. So clearly what you're hearing here, which is awesome, is, a family, a full-time job. God forbid you want to do a side hustle, nowadays, especially if you're living out on Long Island, right? Just to make it. How do you manage all these different things? And we're going to be covering these systems, but how having these systems can help simplify, whether it's financial literacy, whether it's life in general. We'll love to hear, as we cover kind of maybe your perspective, or how, right? Because these are universal principles that could be used whether you're 80 years old or a youth as well. So just kind of want to give the audience back a framework of these systems and financial literacy and why these things are so important.
Right. Yeah. I kind of tell my my students, because we want the best for our children. We send them to school. We want good grades in order for them to be able to make a living for themselves. But like I tell them, it doesn't matter how much money you make. You can always spend more than you make. So financial literacy is very important for you to learn. Not when you're 30, not when you're 40, but when you're young. You start developing these habits early. So what are some of the financial habits that you instill in your children?
So I actually take it a level deeper. and it's more about creating wealth. Uh, because I think, mm, especially I believe people who haven't come from means, uh, we usually have a challenge with understanding what real wealth is, and and my idea, and of course this came by reading, educating myself, is that wealth is more about the value that you uh, use the word again, curate for yourself, and wealth can be seen on many levels. Accumulation of values, accumulation of material things, a, a curation of principles. But at the end of the day, the way you build wealth is when you set boundaries. If you don't set any boundaries, you can't create wealth. And a simple way to even think about it is, if you if I took a cup of water or a jug of water and pour it in your hand, you can't hold the water. It's only when you give me a cup which has boundaries that you can hold that water. And that's that. I don't know if it answers your question, but that's really what it comes down to. Can you hold the value or hold on to the value so that then you can pass on that wealth to the next generation?
I love that value, right? Because if we're talking about financial literacy or even laws, right? And the theme will keep going on, where I think you're a specialist in talking from personal experience, specialty, but the systemization, right? And when you're able to compartmentalize and kind of break things down into systems, it makes it easier to accumulate that. And like you said, for the audience, financial wealth is about creating value, right? We all want to get wealthy. We all want to see like these, Instagram scams and stuff like that. But true. So if we're talking about laws and keeping it simple, it's not like, oh, what's the next thing to get rich? And Charles will go over more. It's like, how do I create value, right? And then that value becomes that container for more opportunity. And I think that's what, is happening in the studio, and is happening, I feel like, at Gapman's Cafe also, right? It's as you're creating value and creating a container, more are able to come towards it. Abigail, just hearing this, and what's something that is either a lesson you've learned from your dad for financial literacy, or maybe not from your dad, or maybe just in general, are there any like financial rules that you have for yourself? Like Charles talked about setting boundaries on things.
What I learned from my dad is, when you get money, you also got to be like careful on what you spend it on. Make sure, like, if you're going to spend it on something, make sure you need it and you don't already have the thing, or that you'll actually use it. Like, I know when I was younger, I would definitely spend my money on toys. Toys was always something I would spend my money on. But after a while, I realized how all the toys that I would end up buying just ended up, after a while, I'll play with them for a week and end up in a box. So basically now I have to learn that if I'm going to spend my money, I'm not going to buy a toy. I'm going to buy something. Like if I'm buying food, at least I know food, I'm digesting it. I'm not just going to throw it away after. Or if I'm buying a pencil, I know I'm going to use it to write it. Or a book that I'm going to use to read. So basically everything, you have to be careful on what you spend your money on, because after a while, you'll keep on spending your money on something and then you'll lose all the money, and it wasn't worth that at the end.
Nice. So, right, being thoughtful, mindful, where you spend, and even value. You want to see like your money create value for you. Like you said, whether that's a meal, right, that creates happiness, but you want to see your money. It's very, very cool.
I took my kids to they graduated, Jayla and Alani. They graduated 8th grade and kindergarten. So I thought I was treating them. So I said, take a trip to Five Below. You guys could go all out. Like how much damage can you do at Five Below? And once we got to the cash register, I was like, oh my goodness. You
could do
It
damage
started
at
adding up. And then I was like, hold on. You don't need this. You got this already. You got a squishy toy already. Hey, what's going on? So, it's very important to know, like you said, like, okay, do I really need this? Am I going to use it? You know, is what's the value of this? Is it even worth me buying it? You know, I may use it, but I may only use it for 1 or 2 weeks. You know, so very important to know the value of what you know, we're purchasing.
Thank you, Abigail.
And actually, one of the things, if you don't
Please.
mind, if I can add on that, is that what we don't realize is that usually when we are buying something, we are looking to fulfill a need. And if you don't understand the need, then you end up spending your money incorrectly. So by evaluating your need, then you can find out the appropriate thing to meet that need.
That's one of the themes, like I tell, you know, my children also, as far as is you know, is it something that you want, or is it something that you know, need? And then trying to figure out, okay, what do you know, really need? Trying to figure that out also, because for each person is different. You know, my need may be different from your need, and what you value may be different from what I value. So just trying to learn that and understanding that is very important.
Charles, you bring up such an important point, because I think even as parents, right? One of the things that fascinates me with video games is, like, when we were kids, you bought a video game and that was done. Now it's like a leech. You know, there's all these ways to get money. Like my son, $30 on, like, you know, some PlayStation Pass and the monthly thing. But right, like, now hearing what you're saying, instead of judging and being like, oh, you know, you should be doing this. I love what you're saying as a parent. I think it's great. And even as a youth, right? As a parent or youth, what need is it fulfilling? Because I feel then we can get to the bottom of it, right? Like, it's one thing, and right, as a young person, honestly, right, if a parent comes to you and they're more kind of like understanding, like, hey, let's understand this together, versus you shouldn't do that. As a young person, which one approach is going to resonate more with
I
you?
would probably like the talk, not you shouldn't do that, because at least I know, like, the parent is understanding where I'm coming from and then backing up on it.
I like that. Yeah, see, so that's such a great point, bringing it back. I love what you said there. And I'm going to work on that, you know, looking at the need. And then it's an easier place to coach from, I feel like. So thank you for bringing that up. Maybe one more, not to put you on the spot. You could say pass, but is there another lesson or something that maybe you've learned from your dad, from your mom, or from a peer, from that another financial kind of principle that you try to live by?
No,
You can come back. All right, that's
No,
super
I
cool.
have to think about one.
Yeah. So totally, right. So value, that's great. Value is super important. And Charles, one of the things that I really enjoyed is what by looking at the need, then we can look at the spending in terms of right here with the stages, falling in love with every stage, right? So if you kind of embrace it and you use it correctly and use it for value, that'll reduce a lot of kind of the friction and like the remorse, right, that comes with it. So
Correct.
how does this tie into the specific stages of life?
So I guess it would be helpful to first tell you what.
Oh
the
yeah,
stages
yeah.
are. So over the last 10 years, I've been working to develop this concept that from Gap Cafe, and it's basically looking at the journey of life. We all on a journey, and again, it's about curating, as Rich said. You know, it's about systems. I'm an engineer. I also have a master's in economics, so I'm constantly looking at systems, strategies, how to simplify it, and I start studying how can I simplify my life. And I broke it down into 7 stages. The first stage being entering in. Then you're born, you come into this world. It's from 0 to 4, and I'll explain each stage, but I'll just share them first. So it's entering in, learning. Then you go into the earning stage. Then you go into investing. then you naturally flow into legacy, and you transition, and then destiny. And destiny is ultimately like the capstone of life. And anyone who, you know, that you didn't die prematurely without, you know, getting a chance to think about what you're doing, is actually learning how to die. And that's the last stage. Interesting enough, in studying this, I realized that each stage have the 7 stages in it. And but for example, for the first stage, where it's around the ages from 0 to 4, they aren't definite, right? They flow over into each other. You're basically looking to find out who's gonna take care, who's gonna feed me, you know, who loves me. You know, it's that nurturing. And just like if you go on a job, that's the first thing you look for, right? Who cares for me? Who's gonna nurture me? Who's gonna mentor me? Then naturally you go into the next stage, which is in the journey of life is from 5 to about 22, where you're learning. So you learn who's your father, who's your mother, who's your caretaker. You know, you get to learn about, okay, what does these feet do? What does this hand do? You know, then you go to the next level and you learn about, you know, what is the world, how to interact, how to influence people, who's influencing me, and once you go through that learning stage, then you go into your earning stage, and the earning stage is more about trying to now you figure out what you can do. You know, maybe if you're a basketball player, you play basketball. You know how to shoot. You know, if you're an engineer, you know how to engineer systems. You know, process flow. If you're a teacher, you know how to teach generally.
Right.
If you so in that state, you're kind of, you know, trying to figure out exactly where you want to invest. And do I really want to be a teacher, or even like in my case, during my earning stage, I started working at GE as an engineer, making plastics and caulking, and that wasn't working out because I couldn't see myself spending the next decade there. So in during that time, you're kind of trying to establish yourself financially. You're trying to discover where's the right trajectory for you to go in terms of a career, and so that's and you're kind of to prove to yourself that I can do this. And once you've established that you can do whatever you decide, you naturally go into your investment stage. And that's where then you invest for the next decade or 2 decades. And, you know, naturally, one of the ways that people invest is when they have children, they start investing in the children. And you invest for at least 2 decades. And you're, you know, investing in that person. If you have a business, you're investing in that business for however long you decide to stay in that business. If you're investing in a concept, a research, an idea, you do it in that investment period. And investment period is probably the longest period that can range.
What age is that investment?
So investment usually
Typically?
comes around like 30, 32 to up to 65. So that's where the investment. Then you have your legacy, where now you spend the last decade or 2 creating. So, you know, my daughter is going to be my first legacy because we've been investing in her for the last 14 years. So now, and she's becoming into her own, into herself. So, and that could be on very several aspects of course. Then we go into the legacy stage is usually like from from 55 to like 65, and then after that you go into transition where you've because during your legacy stage you're kind of mentoring, right? You're hands-on mentoring. While in the transition stage, you mentor from a distance, so it's not as hands-on. You more mentor when the person needs you. So it's kind of far away coaching, almost like being on a board. If you can think about that, you're not on the day to day, but your reference for ideas, your reference for guidance, your reference for concepts.
Your knowledge has matured, right? Your knowledge and value kind of has gotten to a certain maturity
so
point.
you can look at a pile of logs and you can say, okay, pull that log and everything is going to come down. And then naturally, then you go into your destiny, where is that period of time you learn to die. That's when you start offloading your wealth. So if you think about all the very wealthy people like Microsoft, Bill Gates, or many of they are looking to die. So they're dying to their passions, and they're releasing everything. They're releasing their wealth completely.
This is great, and it's amazing how time flies. So as we're on the last few minutes of our episode, this is great. So the stages are important. I think it would be important to kind of like have a second maybe episode on this as we're relating to the young people or young adults. The two stages really in that age range, just for clarification, are
Learning and earning.
learning and earning, right? So what's great about stages, and then Justin, please, that it's great for the audience, and we'll hear where we could learn more about the Gap Cafe and Charles and Abigail, should she so choose. But what's really important about understanding these life stages is that there's certain expectations. There's certain guideposts, and not that you have to fit into that, but at least it can help you kind of like envision, certain stages or where you should be at in certain places, more as guideposts. Please.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the investment stage, and the investment stage is you're not only invested in yourself, but in others, including your children. So it's funny, a friend of mine, he sent me this article I wanted to share with y'all, and it mentioned, I don't want to misquote it, but it says, having daughters increases the life expectancy for fathers. Each daughter adds an average of 74 weeks to a father's lifespan, according to research. And he sent it to me because I have 4 daughters. So he's probably nudging me at the same time.
So you're gonna be living long.
Yeah, added like an extra additional 6 years to my life. So do you feel like, how do y'all feel about that? As far as fathers, we're all here, we all have daughters.
Is that, please, you first, Charles?
Well, certainly, I can tell you that naturally, boys don't hang around, right? Your daughters are likely to come and look into you, check you out. So just having that alone, I think, makes a difference. And also, daughters,
I like that. Logical.
daughters tend to be, well, at least traditionally, to be the ones who would come and take care of you if you're sick.
Right.
Boys are like, okay, I'll send someone, or unless there's a close intimacy with your boys. So to me, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I could say it's very, very interesting. I feel like each child kind of unlocks a different kind of dormant component of you. So I could certainly see where, having a daughter, obviously a son, right, may like you said, leave the nest and be on his own. But for the most part, oftentimes the daughter will rely on their dad, even in their 40s or 50s, right? Like, hey, can you help me? So I could see that, right? And in life, part of why we need to be smart with our finances is being able to live to that moment, there. So, so
So Abigail, as a
Please.
daughter, your father is safe. You're gonna make sure when you get older and he's older, more grayer, that you're gonna be taking care of him.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's good to
Abigail,
hear.
you can pass again. We always like to ask our mentees on the show whether there's either a quote that you like or if there's a word of wisdom you want to leave kind of with your fellow peeps out there on finances or financial literacy.
I have no quote, but I'll give like a message. Basically, I would just say use your money wisely. Don't make irrational decisions with your money because at the end of the day, you only get that day once. You can't go back and you don't want to regret the decision you made with your money.
Man, it's like a mic drop right there. We're not going to drop these mics, but that would be metaphorical mic drop. Charles, anything you want to leave audience with? And also, where can we find out more about these stages and you and your Gap Men's Cafe?
So if there's one takeaway that I would like to share is that the beauty about understanding stages, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Gap Cafe stages, but curating your life is that it helps you to understand self, and that is on every level, financially, personally, relationally. It helps you to understand self, because if you are operating, like for example, if I'm operating in a stage or that I'm not actually in. And for example, something as simple as like financing. I'm in my investment stage. Now I can go and start offloading wealth, but I'm still investing in my kids. So I can't be offloading wealth. So you have to be current in the stage that you're in and understand what that stage needs and meet that moment. And that's how you become more effective.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been watching Jim Rohn. Is it Jim Rohn?
Oh.
Yeah. So as a final project for my students, we all watch. He had this you can find it on YouTube. It's about 2 hours. He does these lectures. He did a lecture, and I made my students watch it, and they loved it, man. I was surprised. But one of the quotes in the lecture that he said that ignorance isn't bliss, ignorance is poverty.
Yep.
And that kind of stuck with me, because it's like the more you know how to deal with a situation, when you're in the situation, the better. I don't know if you ever drove a car and it's overheating, right? You know to pull over.
Yes.
Because you could potentially blow your engine. But if you don't know that and you keep driving,
That's right.
and I feel it's the same way with finances. A lot of people are not, financially educated, financially savvy. They get in these financial situations where they don't know how to handle it. So, the more we become knowledgeable about finances and investing and what to do with our money, the better off, we'll be.
Man, thank you. I mean, just really some phenomenal lessons, especially what you mentioned about the importance of getting that knowledge, right? No excuse now. With YouTube, ChatGPT, there is no excuse to like live in ignorance on anything. And love what you said. Know thyself. That's so critical, right? In so many different areas, even in financial. Know what your needs are, right? Don't be spending money and then getting upset about it and then staying in that cycle. Start by identifying the need, right? And what need does that mean? I think that's excellent advice. our mentee, Abigail, value, right? I think that's important. Be mindful, especially for young people. There's all these little things out to get into your pockets, right? Whether it's video games or Temu or Shein or not shouting out any of these packages that come to my house. As we finish and we wrap up the episode, we want to thank you, our audience, for your patience. We're getting things moving. We're definitely getting our system together. Again, the mentee is a critical piece. And I'll leave you with a quote here, especially relating to Charles, what he said about knowing thyself, being a community guy. Mahatma Gandhi once said that in order to find yourself, you must lose yourself in the service of others. So if you are having trouble finding yourself, what I want to do, get out there in your community, represent, volunteer, and you will truly find yourself, which can lead to financial success. So we're excited to be here. Stay tuned for the next episode. Definitely would love to have you both back. So, let's even, right? Because I think even diving into these stages and how they relate specifically to, our young adults here. So want to thank everybody once again. I am your co-host, Rich T here, a.k.a. Positivity Pusher on IG.
And I'm your other co-host, Justin, a.k.a. Stock Knock Life.
Please, and sign us off, our guests.
Charles Haywood and Gap Cafe.
And Abigail Harewood.
All right, it's a wrap. Thank you. Thank you to Nam Studios for another awesome taping. Woo woo.
Just trying to keep my